We've been focusing on the Midwest a lot. We've been putting a lot of focus and attention on Minnesota, but we need to also break up some of this focus and start to take another look at Wisconsin. When I see a governor, a weak, pathetic, beta, small, idiot piece of shit that has made himself into prominence, you realize someone put him there because he plays ball, not because he's competent, not because he's smart. He's there because he does what he's told with little to no questions. He's a puppet. When someone is trying to convince me that their business that requires criminality to stay open, that if we stop the crime, well, then I'm gonna have to fire everyone, and then we're gonna have to close down shop. Well, then that means your business does not deserve to survive. If fraud, if crime, if theft is required for your business to flourish and stay afloat, then it should sink. So that goes for right now. When someone says, I need illegal aliens and slave labor, because if we don't have it, because we're so used to having these big margins, because we don't got to pay Americans a fair wage, if we have to close the gap on those margins by paying Americans, well, then the whole state's just going to implode and we're going to just lose everything. What that means is that you have piss poor management. How can someone with that mindset make it to government? Like, I'm just a layman, right? In my mind, people who run for office, people who became mayors and governors, I used to think that these people, I never seen any evidence, but I just assumed that they had to be the smartest, most clever people out there. Every day, I'm learning these are the dumbest, most pathetic, low IQ, low life people that anyone can find. They just dress them up. These people are not smart. They have no idea what they're doing. Unless whoever is paying them tells them what to say, they draw a blank. When Kamala didn't have someone whispering in her ear talking, she drew a blank. Any of these other, what do you call them? Tampon Tim. He can't even talk in front of a room. He has no idea what he's saying. These people are not that bright and they're weak. And now that they're just admitting, hey, we need our slaves. We need even though we have Americans that could do the job, if we have to hire Americans, we can't stay open. Why are you putting all your eggs in a legal basket of illegal aliens? They're not even citizens. But it's just like these people built mansions out of matchsticks. And it's just crazy to me that we're supposed to be in the most advanced, most successful country in human history. But look at all these exploits and flaws that we have in our own system. It just doesn't make sense. Hello? Yeah, hold me turn this up. Oh, I bet.
The immigrants here in Wisconsin. If I had a chance and I knew it would have an impact, I'd tell them to leave the immigrants here in Wisconsin alone. They're the ones that
Wisconsin has more than 450 cases and 5 people have died there.
Yeah, I'm not sure what's wrong. It should be playing music. It should be playing the sounds just fine. But I want to play this video.
Wisconsin Governor Tony Evers ordered to close all.
Oh, sorry.
Non-essential businesses will take effect at.
Okay, there we go. It wasn't that it wasn't playing. It's just that I couldn't hear it on my end. Sorry about that. Okay, so let's go back to the beginning of this video.
I had a chance and I knew it would have an impact. I'd tell them to leave the immigrants here in Wisconsin alone. They're the ones that milk our cows. They're the ones that work in our factories. If they go after those folks, our economy will implode over.
Do you hear what he's saying? He's literally admitting defeat. If we are not allowed to break the law, if we're not allowed to hire criminal aliens, our entire economy is going to go bust. They do all of our slave labor. They do all of the work that we assume Americans are either too dumb or too lazy to do. Yeah, we pay them like dog shit. If you need them so bad, why are you paying them slave wages? Why aren't you paying them the bare minimum which you would pay an American if you value them so much? It's all about slave labor. It's all about exploiting people. But just to hear him now, you know what I'm wondering? How long has he been the governor? Let's ask Arthur. Hey, Arthur, how long has this guy Evans been the governor of Wisconsin? And are there term limits in Wisconsin for the governor?
Tony Evers has been the governor of Wisconsin since January 2019, and he is currently serving his second term. In Wisconsin, each governor serves a 4-year term, and there are no term limits, so governors can serve multiple terms if re-elected. Evers announced he won't run for a third term, meaning his current term will end in January 2027.
Wait, so are you saying that if he just keeps getting reelected by people in his state, that he could just be forever governor like an emperor or something?
Well, not exactly like an emperor. He still has to win elections fair and square. But yes, since Wisconsin has no term limits, if voters keep choosing him, he could theoretically keep serving term after term. Ultimately, it's the electorate's choice. No lifetime appointments, just recurring elections.
How many other states have no term limits on governors?
Yes, quite a few states have no term limits for governors. Some prominent examples include New York, Texas, and Illinois. In these states, governors can be re-elected indefinitely as long as they keep winning at the ballot box. On the other hand, states like Virginia allow only a single consecutive term, and many others impose a 2-term limit.
You know what, Arthur? I never knew that. Thank you. So it's in their best interest to protect these illegals because foreigners are loyal. Americans are fidgety. You know, with an American, you could even give them cash and then they'll go into the booth and they'll vote against whatever you paid them to vote for. But the foreigners, the illegals, they're loyal and they're controlled by the people that snuck them in here. So that's an entire voter block that you can have that if you get them on your side or if you're paying them, if you're doing kickbacks or you're working for them, they can keep you in office forever. There's no term limits in a lot of these states. And it's crazy. I didn't know until the lockdown began that each state, the governor is really the president of the state. And the president of the country is just the president over the Fed. But each individual state's governor is really that state's president. I didn't know that some of these states have no term limits. So they can be a president for 50, 60 years like a dictator over in Africa as long as they just keep winning. And if you know Americans, you got to keep buying their, trying to convince them to vote for you every year. If you bring in a bunch of illegals who are guaranteed to vote for you because the enforcers and the whatever mob organization you went through to get them here, they're going to make sure they vote for you. You can literally guarantee your power forever. So no wonder Tampon Tim and these other governors were doing all this underhand, cheat, snaky, weird stuff. They have to. This is how they stay in power forever.
If I had a chance and I knew it would have an impact, I'd tell them to leave the immigrants here in Wisconsin alone. They're the ones that milk our cows. They're the ones that work in our factories.
Before illegal aliens, before we started bringing in illegals, it was Americans that milked the cows. It was Americans that worked the factories. It was Americans that tended the crops. Now the Americans in his state are on welfare. Americans in his state are being subsidized by the government, and the illegals are being put to work. I think that is suicide for a country. But the people who believe in slavery, like Evans here, like Evers or whatever, they have to go. They are from a time long past in the United States. We are conservatives. We believe in independence and freedom. With freedom comes responsibility for yourself and to be responsible for your own family, not to delegate that responsibility to the state government to support you. But why do they have to support you? Well, you can't work because you cannot compete with the slaves. Even the goddamn governor is telling you, you can't compete with the slaves. We need the slaves. We don't need the Americans. We need slaves. And they're telling you that on video. All of these people have to be removed. They're not even America 3rd. They're America 15th. These people are the enemies of the Republic. They're the enemies of our Constitution, everything we stand for. They don't stand for anything to do for the people, for Americans at all. They want us displaced. They are begging to, they are hand over fist giving away jobs that should go to young American kids who are just getting started in the workforce. But instead, there's some 50-year-old Mexican or 50-year-old illegal willing to work for slave wages in jobs that were typically meant for young American teenagers that are trying to get into the workforce so they can begin their adult lives. And then we wonder why our society is upside down right now. Look at the governors. Look at who we have in leadership positions. You mean to tell me out of how many Americans we don't have any better options than this? I don't believe it. We got to get money out of politics. We got to get rid of lobbyists who are putting these people in power. Only America first people can be elected going forward anymore. We have to stop this.
If they go after those folks, our economy will implode overnight. He should know that. I mean, if he doesn't know that, then frankly, he should.
Well, we don't care.
If I had a chance,
we don't care.
I knew it, and I knew it.
We don't care. Let your economy implode. Let it go under. If someone's trying to convince me, well, I have a new store, but the only people that buy stuff from my store are drug dealers. And if the police arrest these drug dealers, then we're not going to make any money at the store. Well, then let your store close. Go get into a new line of work. That's bad management. If the only people that can buy your products are drug dealers, then go get a new, then you're in the wrong line of work. This is insane. These people, this is literally the definition of selling us out. We've been sold out. We have been sold out, and no one knew. No one knew our governors looked at their constituents like that, because when they're campaigning, they're lying. They're telling you everything you want to hear. They're trying to get you to think that they're pro you. They're going to put you back. No, they don't. They don't want you working. They want slaves. And when they get done with the slaves, they're going to want to hire robots. Anything but you and your kids. They don't want you and your kids to work. They don't want you independent. They don't want you to think for yourself. They want you depressed, stressed, on government assistance and completely dependent upon them. But they're creating these conditions by talking about automation and literally even saying we prefer slave labor. We can't allow this. These people are so far from America first, it's disgusting. If that's what it's going to take for the state to implode, then good. Once it implodes, the people will push you out of office. Someone with better management skills can take over your position, and we can bring Wisconsin back to its former days of glory. Because right now, under this failed, pathetic excuse for a governor, well, obviously they can't even survive without slave labor, which is ridiculous. Do me a favor, like and subscribe, share the video. I'll be back on another topic, but this is insane that somebody can just talk down on American employees and say that we need illegal aliens. How fucking dare you? That's why we're not going to elect people like this anymore. Going forward, it's America first, and it's Americans.
I've been needing to find a new apartment, which has not been easy with credit as bad as mine. Luckily, I found cosigning.com. They connected me with a cosigner who helped me get my dream apartment for me and my dog. I just paid a small fee and was able to move in fast. Get the cosigner you need for the apartment you want. Check out cosigning.com today.